Let's start today's episode with a quick quiz. And I invite you to answer honestly. I promise no shame, no judgment. Ready? Okay. Question one. Do you currently have more than 3 unfinished projects sitting somewhere on your laptop, phone, or some random notebook? Question two. When someone asks, so what do you do? Do you silently panic because how on earth do you explain all your interests in one sentence? Question three. Have you ever fallen deeply in love with an idea on Monday and then been bored by Thursday and already planning your next thing by, say, the weekend? Okay, maybe not as dramatic as that, but you get what I mean. If you said yes to at least one of those, welcome home. You might be a multi-passionate, or as Barbara Sher would say, a scanner. And today's episode is for you. Hi, lovely DIAs, and welcome to another episode of the Dream in Action podcast, the space where we don't shame curiosity, we celebrate it. I'm your host, Tiari, coach, creative, and your dream doula. And yes, I have been AWOL for the past month. My reasons may be valid, but I won't bore you with the details because at the end of the day, they are just excuses. But not to worry, I've been duly told off by one of my loyal listeners. So I hope this counts as sufficient punishment for my absconding. What I will say though is it is a different season of my life and I'm still working on finding a rhythm that I can stick to. At the time I started scripting this particular episode, and yes, I do script it so I don't veer off topic because I can. But anyway, at the time I started scripting, I was working in the backseat of my car, not far off from the venue of a dance competition my daughter was participating in. If you are a parent of a dancer, then you know comp days are fun, but they are long. And the whole scene reminded me of a book I read some time ago about a writer who had a full on life like mine, but managed to write his small pockets of time. For instance, 10 minutes between when the kids are eating breakfast and when they leave for school, or writing a lunch break at work, and so on. And that's my goal for this season. I plan to make the most of pockets of time to pursue my dreams as I do my favorite job in the world, being a dream doula to my children and their dreams. Anyway, today's all about how to thrive financially when you love too many things. How to build a life that fits like a glove and not like ill fitting shoes. I'm here to remind you that being interested in 1,000 things is not a flaw. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, though, and I speak from personal experience, it may not seem that way. So let's dive in. My name is Tiari, and you're listening to the Dream in Action podcast. Have you ever felt like you were just existing, not truly living? Like you were made for more, but somehow life got in the way? Hey, I'm Tiari, your host, transformational coach, and dream doula. Welcome to Dream in Action, the podcast where we don't just talk about dreams, we bring them to life. For years, I nurtured others, first as my mom's oldest child, then as a mother myself. And then somewhere along the way, I lost me, stuck in autopilot. But I was never able to shake the fact that my mom passed away at just 42, full of unfulfilled dreams. And I knew I couldn't keep waiting. So I embraced the stretch, took action, and found opportunities in places I never expected. Now, I help women over 40 do the same. Stop waiting, start dreaming, and take bold action. If you're ready to go from feeling stuck to building something meaningful, you're in the right place. This is Dream in Action. Let's start by talking about what it means to be multipassionate. If you've been in my space for any length of time, you know this is a topic I love talking about because I am living this daily and I'm constantly meeting people who are doing the same. Though that said, this is the first time I'm tackling it from a financial lens. And I think this is really important, especially in our day and age. Also, if you've been in my space for any length of time, then you've probably watched me train as a lawyer while gigging my way through Christian events in uni and releasing a few singles and then becoming a copywriter and then a copy editor and even blogging at some point and then coaching. Actually, I think the writing was always there, off and on, but I digress. Maybe I have pretty much just described you. But something I've never really shared is how much shame I carried about all the things that I was doing, all the things that I wanted to do. Because the world loves specialists. It rewards the people who plant one flag and stay there forever. The problem is, that's not how some of us are built. It reminds me of hair types. Now, I grew up in a society that treasured straightened hair. Very different times to now, of course. But back in my country of origin, I remember as a girl of 10 begging my mom to straighten my full head of unyielding type 4 hair. I hated how painful it was to comb and how, despite it being long, it wouldn't fall nicely around my shoulders. I remembered I would take an old t-shirt and put over my head just so it could flow down my shoulders all the way to my back. It wasn't until I was much older and I had encountered other hair types that I realized two things. One, there's absolutely nothing wrong with my hair. And two, every hair type is imperfectly beautiful. Same with the multipassionate person. You are perfect and flawed like everyone else. And most importantly, you aren't alone. There are so many just like you and I. That's why the works of people like Barbara Sher and more recently Emilie Wapnick found an audience. Barbara Sher, for one, wrote a book called Refuse to Choose, and she named people with multiple interests scanners. Not flaky, not unfocused, just wired for curiosity and variety. We see possibilities everywhere. I can tell you now that finding her work was like a fountain to my parched soul. She gave voice to what I knew deep down inside past the shame. There is nothing wrong with your design. You just need a different economic model. But the real struggle for scanners and multi-passionates or multi-talented people is that we live in a world built for specialists. Education systems, job titles, career ladders, they all reward focus. And yet our genius comes from cross pollination. We connect ideas that don't normally meet. We see patterns others miss. When you love too many things, the question isn't, what's my passion? It is, how do I make this work financially without losing my mind? And that's where most of us get stuck. We're either burnt out trying to monetize everything we love, and that right there was me, or two, we get stuck in jobs that pay well but quietly kill our curiosity. Now, this is not to say there isn't a purpose for speciality. I always tell this brain surgeon saying, I don't know if it's a saying or a joke, but I'm sure you've probably heard it before. And it is this: if you needed brain surgery, you probably wouldn't go to a general surgeon, but to a highly experienced brain surgeon, because that's who you will want tinkering in your brain. I also think that there are occasions where, depending on your financial goals, you may want to consider specializing in something, at least for a while your other interests and passions either feed into this thing or play second fiddle to it. This is especially true if you're aspiring for a huge net worth, for instance. Just think about all the popular millionaires or billionaires that you know, from Bill Gates to Warren Buffett to even Elon Musk. They're usually known for one thing. Even when they are known for several things like Elon, one thing is usually the star child and probably even the only known child for a while. The closest to what we today call a multi-passionate billionaire that I can think of is Richard Branson, who sadly just lost his wife for 50 years, by the way, and my heart goes out to him and his family. Anyway, if you really think about it, he was known for one thing for a time before layering on another and then another. He started with Virgin Records, then Virgin Atlantic, and it goes on and on. There's so much I can say about what I call my virgin observations, but that's not what this episode is about today. Today, we're talking about how to thrive financially as a multi-passionate person. And I know majority of you listening to me are not necessarily gunning for wealth like Sir Richard Branson. You probably want more than enough, not just to live on, but to be extremely generous with your time and money. Some would actually call that the true wealth. So, for this crop of people who are multi passionate, multi talented, Barbara Sher has the first antidote: get a good enough job. She said, stop looking for your dream job. Find a job that is good enough, one that funds your curiosity, gives you time and mental energy for your side projects, and doesn't eat your soul. It doesn't have to be glamorous, it just has to buy you freedom. And then Emily Wapnick built on this idea with her concept of the Renaissance business. As the name connotes, this is especially for those people who aren't interested in having a normal job or aspire to, at some point in their future, own businesses. But those who prefer to have jobs and not completely left out. A Renaissance job then will be something with a level of autonomy and variety. Sometimes that will come with how high the food chain you go, or will have it baked in to the very type of job it is. So, the idea of a Renaissance business is, instead of one big thing, you build a portfolio that fits your mix of interests. Maybe coaching plus music plus writing, or property plus podcasting plus travel. And I think I've just described myself. Each piece feeds the others. The goal here is not necessarily balance, which personally I think is probably a myth. It is about building a system where no single thing has to carry the whole weight. Okay, so now let's get into the meat of things, because thriving as a multi passionate really boils down to structure. And here are the pillars that I believe will help you. Number one, separate your money work from your meaning work. I'll say that again. Separate your money work from your meaning work. You don't have to monetize everything you love. And boy, I wish someone had told me this in my own life much earlier. Many times, the burnout most multi talented people experience is in trying to monetize every idea that so much looks their way. Some things can just be shared with the world or just enjoyed, and that's fine. I suspect the dilemma comes from having to spend money on the thing and wanting a return on. But some things are just like a holiday. The returns are very evident, but they are just not monetary. I suspect the dilemma comes from having to spend money on the thing and then wanting a return on investment. But some things are just like a holiday. The returns are very evident, but they are not monetary. So, my suggestion is, let one or two things pay the bills so the other things can stay pure, joyful, and experimental. That's not settling, by the way. That is strategy. Okay, number two, build income pillars, not necessarily one career. Imagine your work life as a stool. One leg, very dangerous. But three or four legs, now that is stable. That could look like employment plus coaching plus freelancing or consulting or writing. Now, some of these will be seasonal, some may be permanent, or some may be on rotation. This, in my opinion, is where majority of multi-passionate people sit. But the strength isn't in one lane, it is in the combination. Studies on generalists, which is another name the scanners have been given, actually proves that people with diverse skills adapt faster, pivot easier, and survive economic changes better than specialists. That means that's just a fancy way of saying multi talented people are built for agility. Your variety is not the issue, it is your advantage. The trick is then learning to balance things in such a way that you are energized and not burnt out. And that could take some time to rejig, reprioritize. Some things you probably would have to drop, and then other things you have to do less of. Now, here's a little secret that I'm going to tell you, and I'm embedding it at this point of the podcast because if you've listened to this point, then it means that you're here for the goodies. So, here's a little secret for you. Investing in companies, businesses, and even people, and having good money management will be your best friends. So, get educated on these things now and fast. Number three, choose a good enough job wisely. Now, I'm going to keep this 100% real. I know some people are listening and thinking, yeah, T, that sounds very nice, but where are these good jobs at, right? People are just trying to find any job in this economy. Now, hear me out. I'm not talking about privilege, and I'm not talking about manifesting your perfect role here. A good enough job isn't a fantasy, it's a strategy, like I've shared earlier. It simply means a job that works for the season you're in, not against it. It might be a stable job with predictable hours, a part time role that frees up some mental bandwidth, a contract position that buys time. That isn't your identity, but it doesn't drain you dry. Barbara Sher says it best. She said, a good enough job isn't about loving what you do, it's about creating a base that lets you love the rest of your life. Sometimes the slogan for the job is, this won't kill me, it just gives me time. And in 2025, with hybrid work, remote roles, fractional positions, and project based jobs, there are more creative ways to build a good enough job than ever. The question is, what's the perfect job? The perfect job is what gives you enough stability to build a life I actually want. Personally, I think it's more a change of perspective. And honestly, I'm more than happy to delve into this if you want me to. So do write me and let me know if you want me to delve more into this. More than happy to share in more detail. But let's move on. Number four, embrace project seasons. Now, listen, multi-passionate slash generalists slash scanners slash multi-talented people don't thrive doing one thing forever. We thrive in cycles. Write in one season, coach in another, learn in another, rest in another. Your creativity is tidal. And that's not chaos. That's just rhythm. Okay. Number five. I already talked a little bit about perspective. So have that in mind with number five, which is redefine mastery. What exactly does mastery mean to the multi talented, multi passionate person? You are not a dabbler, you are a synthesist. You take ideas from everywhere and create connections other people can't even see. Studies on generalists again show they solve complex problems much better because they cross pollinate ideas. Your genius is not in being the deepest, it is in being the one who sees the whole picture. Our mastery is breadth plus curiosity plus pattern. Our lives are not linear, they are layered. And our world desperately needs the one that connects the dots that others can't see. So, those are my five pillars. If you've judged yourself for not having one clean linear path, or you felt guilty for shifting interests or changing directions or reinventing your career every few years, I want you to know that you haven't been doing life wrong. You've been using the wrong framework. You might not be wired for one job, one calling, one lane. You might be wired for a portfolio life, which is where your stability comes from layers instead of ladders. Some people thrive by specializing deeply, while others thrive by building strategically, using things like range, adaptability, creativity, and a smart economic design. And that's not theory, that's reality. Generalists pivot faster. Portfolio earners survive downturns better. Multi skilled creatives bring ideas together that specialists don't see. But thriving financially when you love many things, like I've shared many times, needs structure. It's not about chasing them all at once. It's about structuring your life so that the right things support the rest. That's not chaos. That's not indecision. That's design. So instead of asking, what's my one thing? Ask yourself, what combination of things can become my one thing giving me stability and keeping me alive on the inside. Because for people like us, wealth, and I'm talking real sustainable wealth, doesn't come from narrowing ourselves. It comes from building a life wide enough, flexible enough, and strategic enough to hold all our gifts without collapsing under them. So let me leave you with this little quote. Some of us aren't meant to climb one ladder. We were meant to build our own staircase. And then here's your reflection prompt for the week. What combination of income streams would give me both stability and room to explore? Okay, until next time, keep dreaming, keep daring, and keep putting those dreams in action. And that's it for today's episode of Dream in Action. I hope this conversation stirred something in you, maybe a fresh idea, a little more clarity, or just a reminder that your dreams are valid and worth pursuing. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you're feeling generous, leaving a review helps people find this podcast. It's like telling the algorithm, hey, this is worth listening to. So if this spoke to you today, and you don't even do any of the other two, please share it with a friend or two. Before we go, let me leave you with one of my favorite Bible verses of all time. Never doubt God's mighty power to work in you and accomplish all this. He will achieve infinitely more than your greatest request, your most unbelievable dream, and exceed your wildest imagination. He will outdo them all, for his miraculous power constantly energizes you. Ephesians 3:20. Until next time, dream wildly, live boldly, and keep going.